Good evening, everybody. Welcome to lesson 5.3, comparing and ordering fractions, take 3. We are going to look at reviewing equivalent fractions, and we are going to talk about comparing and ordering fractions. In other words, putting them from lowest order to highest order, or highest to lowest. We'll see. If you get a chance, go ahead and read this cartoon at some point. It's kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny. I'm not really sure why it's on there, but, it is anyways. So we'll move on to ordering fractions. And as we get into ordering fractions, there's some rules that I'd like you to kind of write down as we go ahead. The first one is, excuse me, to deter if the denominators are the same, we want to be able to compare numerators. So if we're comparing fractions, or even if we are trying to decide which fraction goes where, I want to make sure that my following these rules. So if the denominators are the same, if I have fractions like, let's see here, like 3/9, 5/9, and let's do 2/9. And I'm trying to put them in order from lowest to highest. The easiest way to do it is to compare and look and see if my denominators, which are my bottom numbers, are all the same. So all I have to do then is look at my numerators. And I can put these numbers in numerical order by just looking at those numerators and saying, all right, well, since 2 is the smallest number of these three, 2/3, or not 2/3, 2/9 will be lowest. Then I'll have 3/9. And last, I will have 5/9. So that's one easy rule. If the denominators are the same, compare your numerators and put them in order from lowest to highest. Now, another way that we can look at these, and this is kind of neat too, is if we look at these things called fraction sticks. And I have my fraction stick right here. This one happens to have 9ths in it, so this is one fraction stick that's got 9 pieces to it. And I'm going to need 3 of these because I'm comparing 3 fractions with 9 as my denominator. Now let's grab my paint bucket, and we'll go ahead and paint out in red 3/9, and we'll compare in purple then 5/9, and then we'll go ahead and compare in, I don't know, maybe orange. That's the same color. Maybe a lighter purple, 2/9. And if you look, this is really, really easy to see. It's very visual for us. Obviously, my lowest number is going to be this one here, which would be 2/9. Then I would have 3/9, and last, my largest number is 5/9. So it's a really good picture for us to kind of look at. So if the denominators are the same in your fraction, take a good look at our numerators. Now, we're going to go ahead and cancel that out and go ahead to our next rule that I want you guys to write down. That's if your numerators are the same. So if your top numbers happen to be the same, we want to compare the denominators. And let's give you a couple of examples here. Let's say maybe I had, let's see here, 3/10, 3/7, and 3/14. 3/10, 3/7, 3/14. And I want to put those in numerical order from lowest to highest. So a couple of things we want to do is if our numerators are the same, we're going to compare our denominators. So if we have and look at these, my numerator is the same for each one. It is a 3. My denominator is different for each one. It is now 10 there, 7 there, and 14ths. Now remember, these are the pieces that I have in my pie or whatever, my object, and this is the number of those pieces that I'm using. So we are going to go ahead and say that as we're comparing these, if I'm doing this correctly, it should be the lower the piece, the larger the overall fraction is. So I would say that 3/7 is my largest. Then I would have 3/10 is my next, and then the smallest one should be 3/14. We're going to go ahead and check that just to make sure we got it right. we'll get our fraction sticks out. Again, this time I need a 14th stick, I need a 10th stick, and I need a 7th stick. And you can see very, very clearly that the lower the number, the larger the pieces are in each of those. So let's go ahead and now color in 3/14. Let's pick red. 3/14, and now I'm going to color in 3/10. And last I'm going to color in 3/7. And obviously we had it correct. So 3/14 is our smallest one. Then we have 3/10 is our next largest one, and the largest piece, the largest fraction, is going to be 3/7. So that's one very quick way to go ahead and compare and order fractions. Now, let's do this. We'll get rid of that. We got our third piece together, which is this one. It says if the numerators and the denominators are different, we kind of need to use some logical reasoning to be able to draw out a picture. And so now to help me with this, I'm going to go ahead and get an example for you guys so you can kind of see what we're talking about. So let's say we're trying to compare three different fractions. We want to put them in numerical order. Maybe I have 3/7 this time and 7/8 this time. And let's say over here, let's do 1/6. Or no, let's not do 1/6. Let's do 5/9. So now I have, you can look very carefully, very easy to see. My numerators are all different. My denominators are all different. Now we want to go ahead and kind of use some logical reasoning. Again, the smaller the denominator, the larger the pieces for that particular fraction. Let's go ahead and draw a picture because I think drawing pictures are really, really easy. So I want to go get my 9ths out. I want my 7ths out. And I want my 8ths. Now you'll notice if I were to draw these by hand, you got to make sure that you have each one to be exactly the correct size. The same size for all of them. The only thing different is the pieces in them. So I need to color 5 of those 9ths. 3, 4, 5. And I got to color 3 of my 7ths. And last I'm going to color 7 of my 8ths. All right, now when we first started, I did say, hey, 3/7, 7 is going to be the larger, or the smaller the denominator, the larger the piece, which is true. However, when we're looking at these, 7/8 is almost 8/8. It's really, really close, very, very close to 8/8. And we know that 8/8 is equal to 1 whole. So that is going to be my largest fraction. 7/8 is the largest. Then we have the next largest is going to be 5/9. Now I look at 5/9, and 5/9 is a little bit more than half because 9, the denominator here, is almost a tenth, which in 5/10 would be exactly half. So this is just a little bit more than a half. And then the last one we have is 3/7. Okay? So again, ordering fractions, putting them in numerical order, you want to be comparing numerators. If the numerators are the same, look at the denominators. If the denominators are the same, look at the numerators. If they're both different, draw a picture. It will definitely help you out. All right, moving on. The last thing we're going to be looking at is this thing called a fraction wall. And I like the fraction wall. I've never used this before, but I do like it. It's a very good visual to look at coming up with fractions that are equal to each other. Very, very easy to be able to look down this fraction wall and determine what fractions are equal. So I have up here in my oranges my 1 whole, there's a half, there's a third, a fourth, and so on. You guys can see it. But what I really like is I can drag this 1/8. Let's say I have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. You'll notice that I have these green bars going up and down. This green bar splits and shows me where 1/4 is. This green bar splits and shows me where 2/4 are. And this one shows me where 3/4 are. Now all I have to do is follow this green bar down. I can realize that 1/2, which is right there, 1/2 is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4/8. 1/2 is the same as 4/8, which I could also then do my 16ths and say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 16ths is equivalent to 4/8, which is equivalent to 1/2. So it's kind of a really neat tool, a neat device for us to be using, which is exactly what you're going to do when you come into class tomorrow. So, speaking of, when you get into class tomorrow, you are going to have to get your journal. You're going to open up journal page 129. Do the math message. It's very, very quick. You should be able to do that pretty easy. Then we start with ordering fractions. And again, you're putting the fractions in order from least to greatest. Least to greatest. Once we get with the fractions, now we're going to start looking at our fraction wall. And again, this is that thing that the picture that I showed you just a few minutes ago. And you just need to fill in which fractions are equal to each other. So as we look at number 1, it says 2/3. What I would do is I would go up into my fraction chart and say, well, here's 1/3, here's 2/3. As I go down this line, 2/3 is the exact same as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Because the 2/3, that 2/3 line is right here. My 2/3 line is right here, sorry, and my 4/6 line is right there. So again, you can kind of see, and even as you scroll down further, it's going to be equal to that many 9ths, that many 12ths, but not equal to 16ths. So as you kind of see where we're going with this, I think you guys will be okay with it. The last thing we're going to do is talk about getting into adding fractions, and you're going to use fraction sticks to help you do that. And of course, I think you guys will be okay with this one too. Using the fraction sticks, coloring them in to be able to get to an answer. All right, so tomorrow you're working on journal pages all the way up to 132. So 132 will be our last journal page, and then if you finish that, you have a set of math boxes on 133. All right, you guys, have a great evening.